Hi, it's Ruby. Thanks for clicking on my video. I know I've been gone, but I am back, you guys, and I have a ton of things I want to talk to you about. And today's video is going to be all about the child swap at Universal Studios, and I'm going to compare it to Disney World. If that's interesting, please keep watching. So for those of you that don't know what child swap is, it's basically a program that the theme parks have put into play, and it is for people that want to go on a specific ride that might maybe have like a height limitation or might be a little bit scary for the little ones, and they have the option to swap your child with another adult in your party. So for example, my husband and I, we wanted to go on Rise of the Resistance. The baby is too small to go. He would basically go through the ride, and then when he was done, I would give the baby to him and I would go. I wanted to highlight the main differences between Universal Studios and Disney World, and in the process explain how the child swap works. As part of your planning for going to the park, I always recommend downloading the app. So for Disney World, download the Disney World app, and for Universal Studios, download that app as well. Understand what the restrictions are for each ride. Now that might be height limitation, it might also be, you know, hey, my kid's tall enough, but is it gonna scare them really bad? My oldest loves dinosaurs, and when we went to Universal Studios, actually Islands of Adventures, we went to Jurassic Park. He went on the ride, he loved it, but he did not want to go back because that drop was a lot for him. He was tall enough to go, but it was a lot. So you want to definitely not only look at the height restrictions when you're considering a ride for your child, but also your child's personality. And there's a bunch of little aspects on the app. It will say like thrill ride, it might actually say scary for small children, and you want to think about that twice. Same thing with Slinky Dog Dash. My son he was tall enough to go on it, but when we went on it, it was a lot faster. Mind you, last year was faster, this year we went, and I swear they slowed that roller coaster down. But the first time we went, it was really fast, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have put him on this ride. He loved it, but he definitely did not want to go on it this year. He's a year older and taller, but he didn't want to go on it this year because it was too fast for him last time. So you want to definitely look at the apps and look at the height limitations, look at the description of the ride, and consider if it's going to work out for your family. Another thing that's different about Universal Studios versus Disney World is I feel that if I was to say a percentage of rides that were available for child swap at Universal Studios was a lot more than what was available at Disney World. I went to all 4 parks again this time, so Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom. I will tell you that Magic Kingdom, similar to Disneyland, I feel like there's more child-friendly rides there. There's a lot of rides that don't have height restrictions, but in general, sorry about that. You don't need to come down here. Go, where's your ba? You want your ba? I'll give you baba. Stay there. Okay, I'm back. So what I was saying is that I felt like in Universal Studios, more of their rides had the child swap option. Whereas in Disney World, and maybe it's because, I don't know, maybe because if you look at the square footage, Disney World has more rides than Universal Studios. I just felt like Universal Studios, I could pretty much get in a line and I knew that there was gonna be a child swap. Whereas with Disney World, I would get in the line and definitely check my app. Difference number 2 is how the child swap programs operate in either park. In Universal Studios, you basically can go to the first person that you see that works the ride and let them know that you are interested in child swap. I did notice on Harry Potter's Forbidden Journey, they actually let me in right there so I could go into the queue for the regular ride line. Whereas with some other rides, they were like, okay, we'll just get in line, and when you get up here, you know, we'll note it. But what they basically did at Universal Studios is they would make you stay with your entire party. So we had a teenager, a small baby, that was the baby we were usually doing the child swap with, my oldest son, and then 7 adults. We had a really big party. So at Universal Studios, we would stay in the line, and then when we got towards the front, they would give us like a receipt that said child swap on it. And I mean, it was like legit, like probably they printed it every day. It was nothing fancy, not laminated. It's literally like a receipt that said child swap. So they'd give you your child swap receipt, and then you would stay with your party, and there was like a little area, like a sitting room, and I thought that was really nice because there would be like a TV in there or a bench, and a lot of times there was like a changing station or just something to distract the kids that went with the theming of the Universal Studios ride that you were on. And you would just sit in there until your party went, and then some of your party would sit with the baby and some of your party could go. It worked fine for our family because my youngest is pretty chill. He has his moments, but overall he can just like, you know, enjoy the queue. He felt like he was going on the ride, so it was fine. That is how Universal Studios works. Disney World. Disney World, you actually go up to the cast member, let them know that you're gonna do the child swap, and they will put a fast pass onto your phone or your card or whatever you're using, your Magic Band. They will put a fast pass there, and then you cannot go in line. You cannot wait in line. You have to go to the side and wait until the person that is gonna go through the ride or the rest of your party is gonna go through the ride and come get the kid. And I could see how that would be really beneficial for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you have a child that does not like to sit in lines or is like a newborn baby or something, that makes sense. You don't wanna maybe sit in the queue. For me, we did both, and I felt like it was actually harder for me to wait on the side than to go in the line. I know that might sound weird to people, but for me it was because my son felt like he was missing out. But another thing that's kind of cool is like if that's a really long line, like Rise of the Resistance, or something like that where it's like an hour-and-a-half line, you can actually take your kid and go on other rides and maybe do some stuff with them. You just need to keep your phone close and make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi or you have service so you can know when the rest of your party is out of the ride and ready to swap with you. That's a big difference between the two, just how they operate in general. The third difference that I want to point out to you is in Universal Studios and you get your child swap receipt, depending on the ride, you can take up to a certain amount of people back on the ride with you. So what I mean is, like I said, we had a really big party. There was like 9 or 10 of us. So I could take, for example, the Jurassic Park ride, the river ride. I gave my baby to my dad, and then I was able to take 5 people, including myself, back on the ride. And other rides were like up to 4, up to 3, but most of the time it was around like 5 or 4 people total that could go ride the ride with you. So for a really cool ride that maybe has a super long line, people could ride twice and really enjoy that. Disney World was 2 to 3. It was you and then 2 other people. So up to 3 people, including yourself, could go back on the ride. And that's even for like the really nice rides. So we did that on Avatar. We did the Flight of Passage ride for Avatar, that one. That's a super long line. It's usually really popular, like probably one of the most popular rides in all the parks, especially Animal Kingdom. I got to go on it twice because my husband stayed with the baby the second time, and then I went again with him. Also for Rise of the Resistance, my husband and my oldest son got to go twice because they had the fast passes loaded onto their card right then when we were waiting. So from that perspective, it's really nice. It is a benefit when you do the child swap because you can take multiple people on. So there you have it, guys. Those are 3 major differences between the child swap programs at Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, and Magic Kingdom, Disney World, all those parks, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. One more thing I want to point out to you is that I do feel like in general Disney World is more child friendly. Although I kind of gave you a bunch of pros to the child swap program at Universal Studios, I say it's more child friendly because there's more stroller parking. I had the hardest time finding stroller parking at Universal Studios, whereas at Disney World I could find it anywhere. I felt like every single ride had stroller parking. So that was one thing that was kind of give or take for me. I wouldn't even begin to say which one I liked better because there's so many perks to both parks. You know, I'm an avid Disney World lover. This is my first time going to Wizardly World of Harry Potter in Orlando. I've been to the one in Disneyland, but obviously the one in Orlando is much bigger because it goes in 2 parks and there's a train to go between. I'll probably do a video just on my experience with that. But it's either park is amazing. Either park does have some accommodations for you if you have small children or children that are maybe in an age where they get scared by rides. So overall, guys, take those kids to the park, enjoy, and I hope you liked my video. Thanks for watching. Bye.